Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to this last Fireside Chat session of 2021. I can't believe how fast the time is going. And this session, my name is, by the way, Inge. I am a camp coordinator / fundraiser for the ecosystem restoration camps. And this session today will be again with John D. Liu, the founder of the ecosystem restoration camps, and aLp, the camp manager of functional forests. Before we start, I would like to highlight some house rules. I would like to ask you to please hold your question until after aLp's presentation, because we would like to make this session interactive. So if you do have a question, you can go to the reactions button, which is below in Zoom, and you can click on raising your hand, and we see that you have a question, and you can ask the question in person to aLp. And just for you to know, this session will last for about 1 hour, and the room will be open for an open discussion afterwards. So you are able to leave, but you are also more than welcome to join and stay on. Well, John, I would like to give the word to you, and I know that you enjoy talking in person. So there you go.
Okay, well, it's lovely to see everybody, and although it's still a trying time, lots is happening. So actually, as much as I like to speak live, and I will continue to speak live, I am going to share something with you now. And I've been covert by making sure that it's going to be used. And so welcome to this. I've talked a little longer than I usually do, but thanks a lot for coming. And now I think we're going to hear from aLp, who's in Turkey, and it's challenging to be there, and he's doing really, really good work. And he could use some help, and I'm sure all of us can. So welcome again.
Thank you, John, for sharing these words. I think we can all relate to what you were saying on another level. So thank you. And I really love the sentence, knowledge becomes wisdom. So we probably have some time to reflect or discuss your conversation after aLp's presentation and after the Q&A. So yes, I would like to go to the host of tonight, and I quickly will share my screen again with you. Before I do that, I will take the box to optimize the video, because I would like to introduce you to aLp. I have a little video for you to share his land.
And with
Is everyone able to see it?
Good morning, everyone. This is our functional forest
Yes, we can see
signal
it.
on the implementation site, and we begun working here approximately a couple of years ago. It's a barren land with lots of rocks and no organic material in the soil whatsoever, and we've been planting rigorously over 6,000 trees in the meantime, and we're planning on planting another 20 to 30,000. In and amongst the rows we're planting grains, seasonal grains, and we have a lot of varieties on the property. I just want to give you a general feeling of how we're situated here, so you can get a sense, and you can see that our grains are now gently showing themselves, and it just provides a beautiful, beautiful sight. We do look very much forward to welcoming you here anytime that will be possible for you. Much love and greetings from Turkey. Bye.
Thank you, aLp. aLp, are you ready to take over and bring us along your journey of restoring your land?
Thank you, Inge. Yes, thank you, and thanks to John and to the Ecosystem Restoration Camps movement to give me this opportunity to share what we are up to and how we see the world from where we are. Hopefully I'll give an impression that will be useful for everyone who's participating here tonight. I've been asked to have some visuals and a presentation, and I think just as a context, no need to deepen the bad news on one side, on the one hand, but on the other, I think to create a context, please bear with me with the beginning of the presentation where I kind of give a little background and then hopefully move quickly enough to give you enough visuals to see what we've been able to do, and I'll be very excited to hear about your questions and hopefully be able to respond to them. So let me try to share the screen here. Is that working for everyone?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, let me try to make this small, so this is just out of the way.
It's a terrible sight, though.
Yeah, I chose to put this on there because this is what our most precious part of the hills and the mountainsides turned into this past summer. Over the course of 3 weeks, we have had devastating wildfires. And more so devastating was the social impact that we have encountered, where when we were trying to work with our villagers and try to extinguish fires, we were not being helped by the local government, and things have moved very slowly. And I hate to talk about this, and as I said, I kind of pre-warned you, and the latest is that we're hearing increasingly that in the areas that have been burned, licenses are being given out for mining companies, and villagers burned down olive groves and properties, agricultural properties are being confiscated by the government for either wind energy projects or solar energy projects. So that's why I just wanted to put a context. I mean, I will give you a little more context than this, but this is why I put this picture in the beginning. I think the most meaningful way to succeed is succeed. And here, I don't only mean others in form of human beings, but also in form of all living and non-living beings. We have a mission that we defined as nourishing life. That's what we want to live for. That's what we live for. And we vision a world where humanity associates the main source of its basic needs, both physical, such as food, fodder, medicine, fuel, building materials, fibers, dyes, and glues, mental and spiritual, in form of meaning and joy, relationship, participation, personal growth, and contribution. With functional forests, we envision a world where humanity associates these basic needs with functional forests, which is not a concept. It is a method. It is a method in development that is based on over 20 years of experimental work that aims to respond to ecological, economic, and social vulnerabilities in the Mediterranean region. Why functional forests? I think our focus needs to be pronounced as agricultural productivity that is an essential part of human civilization and cultures, which includes cultural values and land tenure and traditional cropping patterns and weather and climate. It relies on a variety of factors. It relies on having the right quality and amounts of plants and animals and tools and fertilizers. I won't go into the end of each sentence. We need to have adequate and accessible markets and transportation and storage and processing facilities and price incentives for things to work. And I think John's central kitchens idea is a phenomenal one. If we can work out the WEQ in terms of working out the linkages, the end-to-end linkages to what we produce on the countryside into the cities and peripheries of cities. Not to mention places like Kyrgyz and Mula, where we live, where we have been hardly hit by these wildfires, and it has affected human lives tremendously, also on the countryside. So agricultural improvement, if we may call it in other terms, is vitally affected by human motivation and self-confidence and hard work and decision-making ability and willingness of people to work together, which is, as we observe, on the one hand, is becoming more and more difficult given the socioeconomic status that one has, or more easy, as we are in some form and shape are experiencing here. World hunger, no need to say, is getting worse. Food prices are soaring, poor are getting poorer, hungry getting hungrier. Land, water, energy, and fertilizer prices are increasing more than ever and is in tight supply, even if you have access. You may have to wait for a period of time that just causes you to miss your right timing of planting or pre or post-planting fertilization. Modern productivity techniques, along with growing demand for food, are undermining ecology, which is well represented in the effects of climate change. And increases in food production will require the solution of more ecological, technical, sociological, economic, and political problems. So there is an array of aspects that need consideration, that need an attitude, a mindset that we ought to develop to be able to respond to all these complex challenges at hand. And I, again, won't go through this list, but there's a list that I tried to lay out, where you see on the left side the conventional farming and forestry mindset versus the functional forests mindset, where we put at the heart of all systemic thinking and human-based needs and necessities. How do functional forests help diminish or eliminate factors that affect agricultural productivity? We do multi-layered, multifunctional, and locally adapted plant variety plantings that assure economic, ecological, and social resilience. When I say economic, I mean being able to harvest already over a course of 2-3 month period by means of using both annual and biennial and perennial plants. Plant-based wind, sun, and sound breaks functions in form of providing the necessity for the particular area that we're working on to produce microclimates and to have a better possibility for plants to adapt should they be adapted from non-local circumstances. We integrate biodiverse biomass production to ensure resilience against drought by increasing soil organic matter on an annual basis, hence eliminating external input of fertilizers over time, and diminish price and marketing vulnerabilities by establishing long-term individual and community partnerships, increase biodiversity by means of using up to 80% local perennial varieties propagated locally. I will be able to show some of our work with regard to this. And we're in the process of training local farmers to train for qualified laborers. And as my friend and partner Gökhan and Ahu today shared their experience with me, whereby an elder in the village has said that I think it is time for us to start using aLp's method, which is a reason for me to start crying, because I've been working for this for 10 years and it did not really go anywhere for lack of a better word. I would have liked to have made progress a lot faster, but now that the prices have soared to such a degree, people are inevitably starting to think that we need to start taking care of our own needs in our own on our own land. So inspiring and catalyzing the power of community is the biggest challenge that we've been confronting, and that we are seeing will show better results as circumstances get tougher and tougher. Yeah, so I think for the sake of using the time as best as I can, this is something that I thought was really interesting to share. Diversity, as we see it in these circles, is usually with regard to plants and animals and flora and fauna. I think this is really nice to look at and try to communicate with those, with the non-converted, maybe I should call, that diversity is as important for natural systems as it is for human cultures. Imagine not having this language distribution around the world, which is obviously extremely simplified. There are thousands of languages that are also becoming extinct day to day. And from there, I want to jump onto a campsite. This is the functional campsite, and that looked like the surface of Mars. This is what it looked like in 2018 when we started work here. This is not the only area where we work on. We have 4 implementation sites. We have where we live and where I'm speaking to you today, where we basically have all of our evolutionary steps in the last 10 years concentrated. And from here on, we work both on this property and on 3 other properties. And one of those properties is our campsite in Zeytinburnu, which used to look like this, and from a height a little bit like this, with conventional olive groves surrounding it, or open seasonal grain pastures that are also seasonal. So this is the size. It's approximately 4 hectares, and we dare to start planting in this manner using Opuntia varieties, trees, local fruit, and nitrogen fixing varieties from seed and also from seedlings over time. This is what it looks like recently, the plantings on contour. Here is a picture that has been taken recently, 12th of December. You see along the contour lines the organic matter that has been organized, and the plants that have been organized along the 12-meter height difference of the property from top to bottom. Here's our home, and look from bottom up, you see both local wild varieties that have been planted from as well as annual to perennial nitrogen fixers, ground covers, plants that are you able to hear me? I'm just getting a message that my connection is unstable.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, and could you, Inge, please also give me a heads up in terms of timing?
Yes, preferably it would be great if you could maybe close like 2 to 3, 4 minutes.
2 to 3, 4 minutes. Okay, let me fly then.
Or 5.
So this is what it, okay, okay, thank you. So then I'll move there, closer ups alongside the contour lines here. This is more midsummer, where grains have been grown and only harvested from top, and stalks are down because the soil temperatures reach 60, 65 degrees in the summertime. So these are the border plantings that are also very recent. These pictures are very recent. Here is our home and our base. Here is where we have our greenhouse, our seed garden. I had a little 1-minute video of this.
aLp, hello, can you hear me? aLp?
Yeah.
If you
Yes.
shut down your video, when you stop your video, then sharing your screen, your performance will be increased probably. Can you please try?
Shut down
Just
my
stop.
video.
Yeah, stop your video and then continue to sharing your screen. Probably it will be more easier to transfer for the line.
Oh, like that. Okay, like this. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Is this still visible?
Yeah, the screen is visible and you're more fluent.
More stable? Okay, good. Thank you so much, Gökhan. Thank you. So I think this gives an idea. I won't let you go through the whole for the sake of showing you what the seed garden looks like more recently. This is still, so we have both vegetable propagation here, as well as herbal medicines, medicinal herbs, fruit trees, local tree varieties that we multiply from seed. Here you see sweet potatoes and turmeric and Lucina, and so on and so forth. This is where we concentrate our saplings. Here's, because I have so little time, I'll just go. Oh, that's my son, my middle son. We also started integrating propagation in between the rows of our olive grove, like so. I don't know if you're able to see. Let me see if I can, if this is better. Here underneath in the understory, we're propagating. Here's, maybe it's harder to see, but it's integrated in syntropic bed shapes. You see broad beans in and amongst tree plantings. Here's some other examples. This is another property, yet another property where we have different soil conditions, but I won't go into any detail. I just want to provide a feeling. This is yet another property. This is the smallest property we work on. It's 450 square meters. And it is, we have only been working on this approximately 5 years now, but it really is a 450 square meter jungle of all types of fruits and vegetables on all levels. It's really beautiful, beautiful to see and observe, and to walk amongst it and harvest and share and enjoy. So maybe to close, transforming our value definition, I think, is as John also so eloquently puts, the most critical driver that we will need. And I try to put it in my own words, from serving individuals' endless desires by monetary maximization techniques that are based on debt economies and war strategies, to breathable air, drinkable water, nutrient-dense clean food, farming cultures that serve the functioning of natural cycles, thriving local and circle economies, and vibrant communities. I think this is what we ought to strive for, and what makes most sense for us and for those who are coming after us. I just found this, which I thought was really nicely put. You have to ask yourself, if our economic system actively destroys the biosphere and fails to meet most people's basic needs, then what is actually the point? And maybe I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening and for having me.
Thank you, aLp, for sharing this, your inspiring story and the work that you are doing. It's really amazing. I think a lot of people have questions for you. I already saw some in the chat. So if you do have a question, you can raise your hands by clicking on the reaction button and raise your hands. aLp, maybe you can
stop sharing. That's what I was just trying to do. Yeah.
Then we can see everyone again. Hello. Are there any questions for aLp? I saw a question about water management. Sorry, John, we couldn't hear you.
Still can't hear you, John. Still muted.
Of course you can't. I turned off my Yeti. It's back on.
All right. No questions for aLp? Or are we still?
Plenty. I think the water question is very important.
Yeah.
What's your rainfall, and what's the difference between rainfall and available moisture?
What's the difference between the rainfall and available moisture? I don't know specifically. I do know that we have up to 800 millimeters of rainfall per year. I do know that precipitation over evaporation is prevalent over 7 months of the year. So precipitation over evaporation is about 4 or 5 months of the year. But the ratio, I would not be able to say. I don't know.
All right. I see a question from Jonathan. What is your water source, and is there a potential for depleting the aquifers?
Oh, absolutely. On the campsite, we have no water source. It's the rain, and in the summertime, we have been using water from water source, both aquifer, but also from a location that's fairly in the vicinity, about 2 to 3 kilometers away, where groundwater level is very high, so the water is readily available. And we transport the water in 2 to 4 ton tanks behind tractors to give life force to the seedlings and saplings over the course of summer. I would say on an average of once a month, and aim to keep the plants alive over the course of the summer with a lot of mulch. In fact, we almost exaggerated in certain areas, but we're despite of that, hard hit. This last summer, about 40% of our saplings dried out because of temperatures that reach 57 degrees due to wildfires.
Sad to hear that, aLp.
But I think I also like to say that the way we use the land also in other properties is by either terracing, putting in ponds and swales. We have where we have our base and our home and our workshop and seed garden and all. We have built cisterns before we built anything else. So we have cisterns that are built on traditional style, where we have a reservoir of about 300 tons of water that we then gravity feed alongside the terraces. That does not suffice though for throughout the summer. We do need to get support from the village water that is channeled. You have to write your name. You have to enter your name in the list, and when it's your turn, you get water, and we fill our cisterns with it. And as a third option, we do have an aquifer on our property as well. So we try to put as little impact on that and as much focus on harvesting and using the water passively.
Thanks. Kat, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I have two actually. aLp, I know that when we were in a conversation online a few days ago, you mentioned something about how you're starting to experiment with planting different vegetation that hasn't traditionally been indigenous to your area in response to climate change. And I think it was vegetation that's more prevalent in North Africa. So I'd love you to tell the group a little bit more about that. And then secondly, I'm just dying to know what opportunities there are for campers at functional forests to get involved in all the amazing work that you're doing, and diverse work too.
Yeah, thank you. If I may quickly share some pictures here, just to give you a little idea in terms of. Let me see if I can take this out. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. These are some of our experiments, some of our consortiums that we're trying out. Just want to give you a feeling of them before I tell you some varieties. obviously these are close-ups, and it seems to be moving fairly slowly, but so what we tried to integrate by means of using the syntropic farming method, all the stratus, all the layers of forest, a functional forest that meets all of our needs, from building materials to obviously producing the biodiversity, biomass, and organic matter that is needed to have a strong and thriving forest, through to protein and oils and essential oils, as I said, foods and medicines, and fibers. So these are a few examples that might give you a little sense of how in the Mediterranean, when you look at this picture, for example, up to the top of it, you see how dry it is. We still
aLp, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
We can only see the little mini thumbnail images. We can't see the full pictures.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that? I wonder. See this?
No, it's still the same collection of thumbnails.
Ah, well,
You may
I
be
don't know.
sharing the wrong screen, aLp.
aLp, you have to unshare and then open the picture that you want to show, and then use that rather than your whole thing.
Okay. Let's see. So, do you see this?
Soon, not yet. It's black. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So you actually didn't see all the pictures I showed so far?
No, we saw the thumbnails. Yeah.
Oh,
We saw
no.
the whole front page with the thumbnails.
Oh my. All right. Well, that's too bad. So let me just very quickly show you a few more close-ups just to give you an idea. So these are, you see, from peanuts up to the others. Middle you see figs, you see rosemary, you see, let's see.
Probably best to drop
geraniums.
your video once more so that it goes more smoothly.
Well,
much better.
I think it has to do with our connection, with my connection. I apologize for that. Well, if you have seen a few visuals, maybe that gives you an idea. And so the first question was in terms of plant varieties, and they go I guess all the way from let me see, why is that showing me start my video now? Sorry. We're trying out wild varieties as well as domesticated varieties. We are experimenting with a variety called Grevia tenax, for example, that is very high in iron, particularly great for women. And unfortunately, I can't say much as of yet because that's been just on site for a couple of years, and I was expecting it to grow much faster, but it is not. Things like sweet potatoes and turmeric and things like that from South America have done a lot better than those varieties from North Africa. So we are trying. I said that during that talk, but I wouldn't say that it's working here, and it's a work in progress. We're experimenting with a lot of varieties. The other one, in terms of campers, well, I guess we need to talk about the context and the length of the stays and what people are bringing. And I think I was pretty clear, or we're also pretty clear on our camp page, that we really need to host people that can help us during this time. We have a lot of work and a lot of conditions to respond to, and hosting should go hand in hand with really taking up responsibilities here on site. So if people are ready to take responsibility on various jobs, then we can of course talk about that one-on-one and hear and see what people are intending to bring and what they're interested in. Yeah, I would like to talk to you about how the announcement should be made so that it makes it easier for people to be able to apply. I thought our page was fairly well set up, and hopefully they can try connecting with us via the camp page.
Thank you, aLp. Kath has shared your camp page in the chat so everyone can have a look.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. aLp, I did ask you to stop your video, so therefore it asked you to start your video again, because we can't see you now. So therefore you got this pop-up question. Yes,
Okay.
You're back. Sorry. Ash, do you still have a question?
Oh. No, I don't. I was just raising my hand with politeness to tell aLp about the thumbnail thing, but then I just went for it with my words. So I'll lower my hand now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. I hope you're feeling better.
Thanks, aLp. Yeah, I am.
Good.
I see a question in the chat from Russ Cohen. Russ, are you willing to ask aLp your question in person? Because I see you have...
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so here in my region of the U.S., we're very much interested in planting native species to support ecological functions, the food web, our native birds and insects and so on. And I see a great opportunity to achieve multiple objectives by doing that, as well as plant plants that are useful for humans for food and fiber and stuff like that. So I was just inquiring to the extent, if any, that you're trying to work that into what you're doing in your project.
I did not understand the last part acoustically, Ross, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Can you read the chat? Because I've written the question in the chat.
Oh, okay, okay. For examples of how to incorporate ecological functionality into...
No, before that.
Oh.
It's a little bit... Do you see it, aLp, or I can read it
No,
out?
can you read it, please?
To what extent, if any, are you planting native to your region plants, species that might serve important ecological functions, such as serving as food for insects that are in turn for food for birds, that might also have value for people, for example, food or fiber?
I would say 60, 70%. To a large extent.
60 to 70% of what you're planting are native species?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's pretty high.
Yes. All our new plantings, we set ourselves a bar of planting, around 80%. But I can't say we're there. But that's what we're aiming for.
I think we can have a whole conversation at some point just on natives and invasives and aliens and all of that. I think it's a very important conversation because there's some sort of vilification of certain species which are a little bit difficult when they are pioneer species which are replacing something which is missing. And they're just doing a task, and when they finish that task, then they'll probably be supplanted by the legacy genome. But I mean, this has to be observed. I mean, and there are certain other species which are really, really terrible in the fact that they spread so rapidly and that they have some alopath or something that won't allow other plants to live. So they have very, very powerful defenses to ensure their survival and to take over some other habitat. But we'll lovely to have that conversation at another time.
I would just very quickly like to say that with my experience, and of course I can't speak 100%, but what I can say is that the more invasive, the better in the initiation phase of the plantings. And if you set up the planting area, and if you have the appropriate technologies for pruning, then to me, that is a better way forward with accelerating growth of the keystone species and species that we'd like to keep for the long term, then try to haul organic matter from elsewhere or use organic inputs from elsewhere. That's my experience and that's my observation.
Thank you. I do see as people asking if you were able to share your presentation with all of us after this session.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. I do see more questions in the chat. You can also raise your hand so you can ask the question in person. But I do see a question from Kandan Turhan. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And she's asking what wild harvesting means. She saw that in the announcement for tonight. And maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Inge?
Yes?
I'm sorry, I did not hear anything.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. And there was a question in the chat asking about what wild harvesting means. She saw that in the announcement. So maybe you can explain a little bit about wild harvesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Wild harvesting is picking food from the wild. Wild harvesting is picking fruit and greens to eat, but it is also picking seed material, cuttings, mushrooms. Yeah, that's generally the scope of our wild harvesting. We also do a little bit of seaweed harvesting from the shores of the Kyrgyz Lake on season when it's available and when it has withered with permission from local authorities.
Nice. Nice. And do you also collect seeds to do sort of seed banking activities?
Yeah, I mean, I have been working with seeds for almost 20 years. I've been working also in an institute, in a seed institute in New Zealand for a year. And then when I came back to Turkey in 2010, that's what I immediately started doing. And I continuously seek for seed varieties. But I have to say, seed banking, unless it is an actively planted and year by year renewed seed bank, is a very dangerous endeavor. I think over the last 10, 20 years, a lot of people have just put themselves out and have been extremely enthusiastic about going to seed sharing events and buying seeds and selling seeds and exchanging seeds and setting up all sorts of seed sheds and rooms and cupboards and whatnot, and then those seeds just basically going to waste. And I think it is the worst thing we can do. Only those who can year by year renew their germplasm, their seed materials, should be having a seed bank, I think. We have a seed room ourselves, and we have about 2,000 varieties, and 2,000 varieties we are not able to keep up with, so we are on the rapid pace to diminish. Of course, you can have very little amounts from different varieties and try them out, but you also know that seed viability also goes down over every year. So yeah, that's what I think about the seed issue.
Thank you. That's also interesting information. Are there any more questions or follow-up questions? I will quickly look in the chat. Not yet. I do have another question, but I don't want to overrule anyone. But I'm curious, how are the conversations going with any landowners in your surrounding or other farmers? I'm curious.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, the conversations with the landowners in our area is going horribly because the Turkish lira has lost tremendous value and continues to lose tremendous value on a daily basis. So the land prices have increased over 200-fold. And when you have that kind of value lunacy, I'll call it, it's very difficult to motivate anyone to do anything. But as I said, the really traditional villagers, those who have fought for their land and their trees also over the course of the summer, those who want to continue their legacy are really interested, as I said, increasingly interested. Over the course of the summer, we have also been asked more and more about trees and tree planting and how to integrate trees in the farming practices. And we are getting more and more positive feedback from people who we're closely working with in the village. And on another note, even though I said what I said with regard to those areas that have been burned and are influenced strongly by the governmental initiatives, there is also a large group of experts that I'm a part of, that I have been a part of in these last 3 months, where we're developing a development and a restoration project for 4 to 5 of those villages that have been affected by fires. So that is going fairly swiftly and boldly, and the Global Eco-Village Network is also a part of it. And so that is something that might actually pull an important trigger for our area and other areas in the country in terms of a way of doing things. You know, we're talking there all the way from water harvesting to agricultural transformation to archaeological sites being turned into areas where communities can take a responsibility and integrate with their income in some form or shape. You know, that which they have been producing, they might have opportunities in those areas to sell to visitors, archaeological site visitors, and also visitors from the sea, and so on and so forth. So there's I think this is a time where things have started churning. I don't like talking too much before things start happening, but yeah, things start to churn also in our area. I think we'll be able to sit in a local village cafe and be able to have chats around ecosystem restoration. And that's my vision.
Step by step. Thank you, aLp. John.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wonder if, you know, what I've been looking at and considering for some time, and we've done a bit of this, is that if we do a kind of, well, it could be systematic like Theory U, or it could be just more laissez-faire. But if we have things are discussed in public, and for instance, if aLp needs to have specific people come, and maybe he needs specific skills, and maybe he needs some financial support for that, and so on, maybe we could have a small committee or one or two people who take on the idea of working with aLp to design exactly what he needs. And if he needs 5 people or 10 people, and he needs $20,000 or $50,000 or something like that, then let them take that as a task. Because I think there's some people who haven't yet got their own camps, or you know, they want to be involved. So if there were 1 or 2 or 5 people who wanted to come together to say, let's go to Turkey, let's help out to set up a training program that is training by doing. So it's not like let's go and we're going to just relax and hang out and maybe learn a little something, but we're actually going to take on a task that is needed in Turkey at the functional forest camp, and design it exactly what's needed together with aLp, and then go out and find these people, go out and find the resources to make it happen. And that way it isn't like somebody shows up who maybe is high maintenance and you know it just is going for fun and doesn't really want to do anything. But the right people with the right skills and the resources come at the same time, and the planning is there, so you know exactly how many people you can house, and you know how many meals and all of that sort of thing. And I would also throw in this creator space idea again, because I'm really keen on this. That if you get the creator space and you get the central kitchen right, you get the whole community, because they'll all come to you. And I think we can go even further and say seed banks, and especially aLp, if you're talking about doing it correctly so that the seeds are not dehydrated and frozen for 100 years or some kind of thing, but the legacy genome is protected. And I think looks like Russ has a lot of knowledge in this. So I hope he is, goes with us for the long haul on this path. But then the other thing that I think is critical is the understanding of botanical sanctuaries. So if we understand the concept of botanical sanctuaries, it's not simply seed banks and renewing them. It's also planting out the most endangered perennials as well. But anyway, the idea would be get a small committee, give them the task of creating a training course that is in something that's done that you need, so that, let's say 10 people are needed to go and do this training course, and there would be 1 or 2 people who are experts, and there are 8 people who are maybe capable of doing things and are eager to participate in that. So then how much money is required and so on, that could be dealt with in numerous ways. But the other thing that I think is happening, and we're going to see this more and more, is that the value of functional ecosystems in the dominant economic system is 0. And this is why you have this collapsing scenario of the economic system. And the real value of functional ecosystems is vastly higher than anything that human beings have ever made, and everything that human beings will ever make. So the situation is really quite different than it seems at the moment. So we're now in a almost fantastic, or illusory situation where the true value is 0, is said to be 0, and the false value of materialism is said to be worth more, and the basis of our economy. Well, we can't have a consumption economy with the number of human beings that we have, because we end up with these, the billionaire class, or whatever, trillionaires, or they want to go to space or whatever, and the billions of people who are starving on the earth or are wandering around at the edges of large degraded ecosystems, they don't have any rights, never mind. That's not acceptable. So I think we need to be having this conversation deeply, consistently, but not in an argumentative way, but in like, well, what are we going to do about this? This is what it looks like, and there's got to be another way. So coming together and answering hard questions, and we're talking about very, very hard questions. The hydrological system is not simple, but the fact is evolution brought the moisture quite close to the earth. And so we have to learn how to keep the moisture very close to the earth. And when we don't, then we get these disruptions and climate disruptions and temperature changes. So now we haven't been empowered by the governments or by everybody else. But if we don't need permission, if we're able to just go and say, well, we'll do it, and go do it, then we're actually creating more value than anyone else. And ultimately, if you have a central kitchen, a creator space, a seed bank, a regional seed bank, and a botanical sanctuary, you're the most valuable place in your region for sure. So this is kind of like how I see this possibly playing out. I hope everybody likes that vision too.
Thank you, John, for sharing your ideas, and also, the idea of maybe helping out this way. There was a good question from Hannah asking what type of skills is aLp looking for? Is it something that is?
I think Kath sent our link on the camp pages where there's an area of a list there.
Yeah, that's great. And people can contact you by filling in the application form. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I also wrote my email address into the chat here if people have further questions.
Okay, well, I would recommend that if you have any ideas or you feel that you would love to help aLp in a way, please.
I think Patricia wanted to ask a question. I thought her hand was raised. No, maybe not. Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry.
Well, thank you, everyone. I don't know if there is still a question from one of you for aLp or for the ideas that John raised.
Well, I want to say thank you to John for thinking about those things. And I think it needs to be crafted out well. And yeah, I mean, that is the only way we'll be able to make progress and be able to bring in skill sets together in order to make things happen that otherwise are not possible to be done. And I would say it is the resourcefulness that we're looking for, because the resources that we're looking after that may be, you know, categorized under the name of funds, I think are the easiest ones to get. I think the hardest ones to get is to have the not only the skill sets but also the chemistry working, because and also with the, you know, there were a number of questions with regard to, you know, volunteering or visiting and camp stays. You know, we are really open, but we are really open for long-term commitment. We want to work with people who are committed and not who are fishing. You know, fishing is right. Fishing is also needed. Don't get me wrong. It's just possible to do during the camp organizations, when we have a camp event, a week, 2-3 weeks, or something like that. But when we're talking about, you know, engagement and really transforming something, really bringing knowledge and experience and wisdom together, we really need to eat a lot of meals together. We really need to wake up early and go to bed late together for an, you know, while. We can't just get that done by means of setting up, you know, 2 dates, beginning and end date. We just have to set the beginning date and then see where we go from there. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I think maybe some people, we've been here now an hour and a half, and some people may need to go. I know some people have already had to go. But I think if there's no other real serious questions, we could just stay here and have, with anybody who wants to stay, and have an open conversation. If you want to stay and have an open conversation, I think you have to open your camera. So make sure you're wearing pants and so on. But then let's stay and have a conversation with anybody who wants to stay. I see Daniel and Candida. I haven't seen them since they left here on their way back from Glasgow to Portugal, and they're back in Portugal, and they were just at the Altiplano camp, which is exciting and interesting. And Ferdy is here. Unfortunately, he wasn't still at the camp in Spain, so I guess you didn't get to meet him.
No, that's a pity. But they will come. They will come.
And
it's fair to say, John, 49 people from all over the world has joined this session tonight, which is amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, feel free to stay, obviously, for this open discussion with John. But if you need to leave, then also feel free to leave as well.
It's not just with John, it's with everybody.
It is with everybody, for everybody who wants to stay. But I still want to say thanks to aLp for giving this presentation and sharing your journey with us. And I really admire all the work that you do. And I think this session was very valuable for everyone here. So thank you for taking this time. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking this time and listening so patiently. Thank you very much.
I think especially aLp, I know that you've been having some trouble with the health of your family and difficulties in the country. So thank you so much for doing this for us. And hopefully it will all be for everyone's.
It's for all of us, yeah. Hopefully it has something that serves all of us. So thank you.